Hello, everybody. My name is Henry Ferris, and I'm here to do the demo of my version of the Fruit Ninja assignment. Up first, we'll go right into just a playing example. I've already built it for you. Well, for the sake of this demo, I did clear it out for the submission as best I could at least. So I'm going to go ahead and press F5 just to start the game up here. Splash screen, this intro part, and the body of the I have not modified. Runs as is, as you can see here. Hit the fruit, cut them behind, and we're getting some kudos here, some reinforcement for a good performance. Then of course, was adding a save state. So let me get a couple on here. So yeah, I'll save that. Let's say I mess up. I don't hit anything for a while. I can get back just to where it was. Now, I know it was mentioned to avoid existing fruits. That said, as you can see towards the end of this game. Pardon me. I did actually like the degree of chaos, so I decided to leave it. Towards the end of So as you can see here, unlike the base game, in my version, it does not automatically close, and we're greeted with this screen, which I've dubbed the end splash, and are prompted to press any key to play. And what this does is it allows us to restart our game back to the start without having to run again through the ID. I believe this is more representative of how an actual end product should perform. Of course, functionality still works. I can still save as I could previously. And yeah, that's about enough for the demo, I think. Moving into some of the details, I did leave the original README. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to clear that out. But here's the stuff I've laid down in here. So in terms of platform, nothing fundamental has been changed. Requirements, operation, functionality are all the same, aside from, of course, that restart that I added. But you still run it like normal. You still build it like normal. Nothing else needs installing. And then, as I say here, and as I said in the demo, I added a end of game restart screen called end splash. So we'll take a look at that first in our code base. Up first, I figure I will pull up the header. Relatively basic, just defining it, bringing keyboard events, objects, not too complicated. So I will move us over into the actual body of this here with nsplash.cpp. You can see we do the basic initialization here. We defined that string that comes up. It's stored away in sprites. I don't think we need to spend too much time looking at it. It's just some basic text. We do make it spectral and bring it all the way to the front just to make sure there's no issues. And then we prep for keyboard events. That brings us down to our checker handler architecture. Just got to check it here for when there's a keyboard event, see if it happens, then when that happens, it'll bring us over to our handler. Now this handler will delete all objects of screen except for itself. A little bit of redundancy, just make sure everything's properly cleared away. And then, of course, we can create a new game and immediately delete the end splash itself. Now, this did require some changes to the overall flow, especially if we go back to our game over screen. This ending portion was changed so that once this time to live counter was over, instead of just closing the game out, we move on to the end splash screen. Nothing too crazy there. Pardon me. And then, of course, the save load functionality was added as required. So up first, I will go into utils.cpp, which is where the bulk of it is based. So we have a couple helpers up here. For example, just some type identifiers, some validation, make sure we're grabbing what we should out of object lists. We will call those later. Now this is where you start working on the bulk of the save load functionality. So of course we need to define an output file stream. This is what allows us to actually write to a file on the disk. some basic error handling, catching, validation. This is the architecture discussed in class. Make sure we first read the size of objects before allocating space for it. And then once we have that space allocated for exactly the right amount of object, then we put the object right in there. Then we just go right on through our list of objects, iterating through, identifying the type, then allocating that type data, writing that type data, and then allocating the actual content data and writing that content data, moving it through a buffer first, and then into the actual file, which you will notice, I'm not going to spend the time to bring it up, is a .ninja type. So that was save. And conceptually, loading operates in essentially the reverse. Of course, we have some checking and validation as per usual. Uh, So the general process here is we read it from the disk, um, pass it into a buffer. Again, we're still following this check size, allocate, move architecture, just pulling from the disk into memory as opposed to vice versa. And then we just have a switch case to handle all of the objects. Um, I don't think I necessarily need to show each of these. They're all relatively analogous, but I will, for example, um, show the sword, which does have some additional functionality as well. Um, so of course we have serialize and deserialize. We've added this to all of the object classes that need to be stored. And then all of their values, of course, we've set it up to follow this architecture that we've set up in util CPP, so that we can read the size, allocate it, write it. You can see us checking, and then of course passing it down there. And then if I recall correctly, yeah. So we also have our save load triggering functionality handled in sword as it represents the player. Nothing too complicated. Just it's in a keyboard handler that we already had set up for some other stuff. Um, Let me just double check, make sure I've hit all the big stuff here. Of course, we made the necessary changes to header files to support some of the changes, even if I didn't mention them explicitly. Nothing too complicated there. And of course, some of the filter stuff just to make sure that we can interact and mess with stuff properly in our IDE here. Like, for example, that sprite on the Ed Splash screen. I believe that just about does it. If there are any questions about the project or details thereof, or if there's an issue with my submission, please let me know. Thank you very much.